My brother waited until the executive meeting I personally organized to announce that my 15 years of blood and sweat meant absolutely nothing. He didn't even look me in the eye when he handed me the termination papers. He thought he was taking my life's work. He didn't realize he was pulling the pin on his own career. I looked down at the thick legal paperwork resting on the polished mahogany glass. I saw the watermark of Harrington Vance, the most predatory external legal firm in the city. I looked up at my brother's smug, perfectly manicured face. He was adjusting his lavender silk tie, waiting for me to scream. He wanted me to break down in front of the 6 junior analysts I had personally trained for a decade. He wanted security to drag me out of the building. Instead, I started laughing, a quiet, steady laugh that echoed off the cold boardroom walls. The junior analysts shifted uncomfortably in their expensive leather chairs. My brother's confident smirk faltered for a fraction of a second. I simply nodded and looked him dead in the eyes. Understood, Adrian. I don't know if you're watching this on your morning commute or sitting at your desk. But tell me in the comments right now. What is the absolute most absurd excuse a colleague has ever used to get out of doing their actual job? Because my brother told our board of directors he needed a 6-month sabbatical at a luxury beach resort in Ibiza to find his executive voice. While he was finding his voice, I was running the corporate backend. I spent 4 years building the entire digital ecosystem that kept our late father's company alive. I worked 80-hour weeks. I personally digitized the global supply chain architecture from the ground up. My code saved the firm exactly $12,400,000 annually. I would sit at my desk at 2 a.m., eating cold pad thai out of a cardboard container, listening to the low hum of the servers down the hall. I skipped my own honeymoon to negotiate a hostile vendor buyout so the company wouldn't default on its quarterly obligations. I even absorbed a $150,000 personal executive pay cut. I did it just to keep the legacy employee pension fund solvent during a brutal market downturn. Adrian didn't take a pay cut. He was too busy downtown, being fitted for bespoke 4,000 Tom Ford suits. If you've ever sacrificed your own life to build a kingdom for a man who doesn't even know how to hold a sword, hit the subscribe button right now. Because when they try to lock you out of what you built, you need to make sure you're the one who owns the master key. I noticed the shift in his behavior 3 months prior. Adrian spent weeks holding hushed, closed-door meetings in his corner office. He started using a private encrypted messaging app on his company-issued phone. He thought he was whispering. He forgot I built the corporate intranet they were communicating on. I didn't confront him. I didn't ask HR for an intervention. I just pulled the raw server logs. I sat in my office with the blinds drawn, watching the backend IP addresses route his private emails directly to Harrington Vance. I read every single draft of his hostile restructuring plan as he typed it in real time. I watched him engineer my execution. I didn't warn him. I just opened my dual-monitor dashboard and verified that the failsafe was active. A single, glowing green node in the center of the dark interface. Protocol 8. Executive Biometric Matrix. Status: active. Now. We were back in the boardroom. The trap was officially in motion. Empty your office before the end of the day, Adrian ordered. He puffed out his chest, trying to project authority to the junior staff in the room. I didn't feel the betrayal anymore. I didn't see my brother. I just saw a user attempting to operate a complex digital system they didn't have the security clearance to touch. I didn't fight HR. I didn't argue with corporate security when they arrived to escort me. I walked back to my corner office and packed a single cardboard box. I took a few personal legal files and a ceramic coffee mug I bought from a vendor in Tokyo. I left the expensive corporate awards on the wall. They were meaningless now. 2 armed security guards stood in my doorway, watching my every move. I picked up my heavy silver Montblanc pen. I signed the termination paperwork with a perfectly steady hand. I made absolutely sure my signature was completely legible. I noted the exact minute on the bottom line.
11:14 a.m.
I closed the folder and handed it to the head of security. I picked up my cardboard box and walked out. I walked down the long glass hallway. Stepping into the executive elevator, I rode it down to the main marble lobby in total silence. This is the exact moment the trap was armed. I didn't hand my RFID ID badge to the security desk on my way out. I kept it in my hand. I walked up to the primary exit turnstile. I swiped my badge one final time against the glass scanner. The terminal beeped a soft affirmative green. The glass doors slid open. But behind the scenes, deep inside the corporate mainframe, a digital handshake occurred. That specific physical action officially logged my termination into the SQL database. The system instantly registered that the co-controlling shareholder had been forcibly removed without a documented board quorum. My security clearance shifted from alpha to terminated. Protocol 8 moved from active monitoring to a suspended countdown. I walked out into the cold afternoon air. I didn't panic. I didn't cry in my car. I drove back to my high-rise apartment, poured a glass of expensive Pinot Noir, and opened my personal laptop, back up in the executive suite. Adrian was throwing a catered champagne party to celebrate his new era. I could see the lights of his corner office shining through the city skyline from my balcony. He was celebrating his victory. He was sitting in my chair, in his absolute arrogance. His first order of business as the new president was to secure his coup. He logged into the primary corporate banking portal. He authorized a massive asset liquidation to pay his restructuring firm. He initiated a $50 million wire transfer. He hit submit on my laptop screen, sitting in the quiet of my living room. I watched the transaction hit the clearinghouse queue. Status: pending. The system required 2 cryptographic signatures for any capital transfer over $5 million. His was verified. Mine was missing. I closed my laptop. I set an alarm on my phone for 8 a.m. and I went to sleep. The next morning, the air was freezing. It was 8:45 a.m. I was sitting at a small corner table in a high-end coffee shop directly across the street from our corporate tower. I ordered a flat white. The ceramic cup was warm against my palms. The condensation was slowly dripping down the glass window pane. I opened my encrypted laptop and booted up a secure VPN tunnel directly into the corporate intranet, through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the cafe. I had a perfect, unobstructed view of the marble lobby. The digital clock on my screen hit 8:59 a.m. I took a slow sip of my coffee. The clock hit 9 a.m. The clearinghouse timer expired. The system executed exactly what I designed it to do. Protocol 8 engaged. Adrian's $50 million wire transfer didn't just fail. The corporate mainframe scanned the massive liquidation transaction. It recognized that the new president was attempting a massive capital transfer out of the primary holding accounts without the co-controlling shareholders' countersignature, because Adrian had legally terminated me the day prior. The system didn't just flag the transaction as a banking error. It legally classified the wire as a hostile, internal financial attack, a rogue corporate threat. The automated governance filter triggered an immediate corporate lockdown. It froze our primary operating accounts entirely. It instantly generated a real-time federal breach report. It bypassed the executive suite completely and sent the report straight to our institutional lenders and the board's emergency audit committee. Down in the plaza, Adrian walked through the revolving glass doors of the building. He was holding an artisanal iced coffee. He adjusted the lapels of his custom Tom Ford suit. He looked around the lobby like he owned every single piece of marble in the room. He walked up to the private executive elevator bank. He casually tapped his black RFID keycard against the scanner. BZZZT. The harsh, electronic sound of the access-denied scanner echoed relentlessly through the cavernous lobby. Adrian frowned. He tapped the card again. BZZZT. A solid, unblinking red light illuminated the terminal. He tried the secondary lobby turnstiles. BZZZT. Just like that. He was a stranger in his own building. His authority physically ceased to exist. Adrian's phone began to vibrate violently in his breast pocket. It was the corporate banking division. Every single operating account tied to his executive profile was frozen by the audit committee. I watched through the coffee shop glass as the blood rapidly drained from his face. His skin turned a pale, sickly gray.
His jaw went visibly slack.
His shoulders slumped forward, entirely ruining the structured silhouette of his expensive jacket. He dropped his iced coffee. The plastic cup shattered against the marble, spilling brown liquid across his polished leather shoes. He didn't even notice. Two men in dark suits stepped out of the lobby elevators. They were flanked by 4 armed corporate security officers, the exact same security officers who had escorted me out yesterday. They were the board's internal audit committee. They didn't look angry. They looked entirely clinical. They were responding to a Category 1 financial compliance breach. They walked directly up to Adrian and confiscated his company phone. By 9:12 a.m., his authority was emergency suspended pending a forensic review. 12 minutes. That is exactly how long his reign lasted. Today, I am sitting alone in the executive boardroom. It has been 6 months since the lockout. I just signed the final governance restructuring documents. I completely dissolved the centralized title of president. I replaced it with a decentralized operational board to ensure no single person will ever hold that unchecked power again. The room is completely quiet. I look at the empty leather chair at the head of the mahogany table. The company is perfectly safe. Profits are up 12%. But as I sit here, I realize a chilling truth. I spent 15 years building a flawless digital fortress just to protect myself from my own blood. I let him pop the champagne. I let him sit in the big chair. I let him think he was a king for exactly 14 hours before the system ripped his legacy away. Tell me your exact move in the comments. If you had the kill switch in your hand, would you have warned him? Or would you have sat in that coffee shop and watched him burn? If you are currently taking notes on how to legally dismantle a narcissist's entire life, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel, because when they try to lock you out of what you built, you need to make sure you're the one who owns the master key. Next week, I am breaking down how a wife used a simple Wi-Fi router to legally seize her cheating husband's corporate shares. Until then, remember, he thought firing me gave him the keys to the kingdom. He forgot I was the one who built the locks. Silence. Hard cut.